You would not believe how long I was in there. Anyway, so I realize that the shit looks like a mess, as like more than usual. And I also realize, we've got a different look. Also, my hair is much longer because I haven't had a haircut in weeks. However, I'm sorry that I took so long to make another video. And you may be asking yourself, Robbie, didn't you say that the next video would be on either Into the Spider-Verse or Cars 3? I'm a fucking liar. That's all. However, in the time I've been gone, the room looks nicer. I mean, you can't see it, but I can see it. And it's a work in progress. Hopefully, I'm filming 2 videos today, so it's not going to look much different. But hopefully, I'll have a better space. I'll have an actual background that isn't my dresser with a bunch of shit on it. But, the way we are now, we're a little better. So, yeah, like I said, I'm filming 2 videos today. So, don't worry. You'll get at least, when you're seeing this, know that there will be another video next week, baby. Haha, yeah. Consistent upload schedule. I'm like a real YouTuber. Oh boy. But let's cut to the chase. I'm over a month late on reviewing this entire season of a show which I talk up constantly. And that show, of course, is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I want to start this review off by saying, not with a stupid update, but I want to start this review off with a quote, because part of what's taking me so long, so I actually finished this a couple days ago before I'm filming this. I finished it and I'm like, I want to sit on this. I want to hear a bunch of other opinions from people who I know in my real life and people on YouTube. And I think that'll make this review a little better. Now, as you know, I do not script these, as is painfully obvious, because there's no cuts, and I keep jumping back and forth like an anxious child. But it's okay. I do have a page of notes, don't worry. And I think this is going to be a good old video. Don't worry. And this is, alright, so we're going to review all of Season 7. Now let me start with this quote. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but well. I was talking to a cousin of mine who is also a big fan of Star Wars, and he said to me, if you ignore the movies, it is an amazing time to be a Star Wars fan right now, and I couldn't agree more. If you ignore the movies, we got the fucking Mandalorian, Jedi Fallen Order, Battlefront's been getting support, Squadrons is coming out this year, books and stuff. I don't really read the books, I just watch people on YouTube who recap them for me because I can't read. But of course, the crowning jewel, the return of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, was mixed. Let's get into it. So let's start off talking about the Bad Batch arc, which I don't have a lot to say about the first 2 arcs, including this one. It was good, though. It was fun, You got these 4 dudes. You got, what are their names? Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and Crosshair. I keep wanting to call him Longshot, but then I remember that that's the one character from Avatar, so I'm good. I got all 4 of them. And I'm not going to recap the plot. If you've seen this, then you know what the plot is, hopefully. Why would you watch my review of an entire season of a show that you haven't watched? Why would you do that? What are you, some kind of weirdo? If you want my opinion, go watch it right now. Why would you watch a video on the a review of the final season of a show that you haven't watched? What do you want? What do you want, a recommendation? Go fucking watch it. But anyway, I love this. I love this arc. It's fun. It's good. I like these characters. They're fun, like over the top action heroes, and that works really well. This arc really made me feel like Clone Wars never left. There's a lot of good moments in it. I love the scene where Anakin has like a phone call with Padme and Rex covers for him, and it's like, oh, okay, Rex knows. Rex is in on it. Rex is tight. We get it. And then Obi-Wan, we knew. We know Obi-Wan is like, yeah, I know there's something up with y'all. I know. You can't pull a fast one on old Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love that scene. Something I want to mention about that scene, which you've probably seen everyone else who has like reviewed everyone else who's reviewed this season, or this arc at least, has mentioned it. Now we know back years ago, like in 2015, I think, they released the like unfinished animation reels, or whatever the terms for it are, for the entire Bad Batch arc. Now there were some changes. Generally the story's the same. Most of the shots are the same, you know. I never watched them. I'm glad I didn't, because I really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. But they did get rid of a scene, and they replaced it. There's a scene where apparently on the ship, the Bad Batch's like ship, there's like nose art, and you see it on all the Clone Wars' ships, or all the clone troopers like gunships and stuff. There's like maybe some pinup art or something, you know, because we're strong, manly men going to war, and we need art of a scantily clad Twi'lek girl. But this one was of Padme, and it's like, yikes, guys. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's fine as hell. You know who knows that more than anyone? Anakin Skywalker. So when in the original scene, they have pinup art of Padme on their ship, and when Anakin sees it, he's like, huh, that's cool. Not a fan of that. And Rex has to talk him down, like, no, dude, chill out, calm down. You lay low, you know? No one can know that you're fucking married to her. And then it's played for laughs, and it gets replaced with the scene where Anakin is actually in a phone call with Padme. And I understand why they got rid of it. It wouldn't have flowed as well. It would be weird to have a scene where Anakin is talking to Padme, and then immediately after have a scene that references her without her actually being there. And I'm going to go out on I'm going to have a wild guess and assume that it was not a bad scene. Like, it's probably fine. I just think it probably doesn't flow as well when you have then Anakin he just got off the phone with her, you know, and then he's talking about her in an unrelated way. It doesn't mesh I guess it wouldn't mesh as well. Again, I haven't seen the original animation reels. Maybe I should have looked it up and watched it before I mentioned it in the review, but whatever. Another thing I want to mention is all the members of the Bad Batch have their own like unique abilities. Like Hunter can like sense electromagnetic waves or whatever. I don't know what their explanation there is. Wrecker is just a giant dude. There's Tech, and he's like has a bunch of gadgets and stuff, and he's super smart. He just has like a Google Glass. That's all he has, and it's cool. He's probably my favorite. He's the coolest. All of his stuff, like the translator thing that he has, and how he's just constantly like recording audio. It's all really cool. And then Crosshair, who's just he can shoot the gun really good. Woohoo! Yeah, he's the worst one in my opinion. Because at least Hunter's like cool. Like Crosshair is just, yeah, he's strong and he's cool. He gets that scene where they're on the ship and he's like throwing out the little reflector things, and then he goes back and shoots his gun and it bounces all over the walls and kills a bunch of droids. That's awesome as hell. Don't get me wrong. He's just an asshole. So I don't like him. I mean, they're all kind of assholes, except for Tech. He's chill. But the Wrecker's also an asshole, but in a fun way. I should have done my hair before recording this. Oh well. I want to mention the animation quality for the entire arc, really. But you see, even in that first episode, the animation is just so smooth. Because part of why I held off on watching this season was because I wanted to finish the rest of the series. Because I was rewatching it. And even the jump from season 6 to 7 is so good. It's so amazing. It's so like buttery smooth, and all the characters have like new or updated designs, or at least Anakin and Obi-Wan do, and they look much more like they do in Revenge of the Sith, which is really nice because this takes place like we're getting close. Like I think it's like a week. I would assume it's a couple weeks before Revenge of the Sith, if that. So it's really nice, I have to say. And then let's keep going. There's the scene that I really liked where there's two more scenes I want to mention before we move on to the next arc. There's a scene with Anakin and Admiral Trench, and when he's like trying to get the code to turn off a bomb, and he's like, all right, bro, I'm gonna kill you, and Trench is like, you're a Jedi, you're not gonna kill me, I'm good. And then Anakin's like, fuck you, and then cuts 3 of his arms off. And now Trench is like, and then he tells him the number, and then goes like to attack Anakin when Anakin has his back turned, and Anakin just fucking stabs him with his lightsaber, and it's like, okay, dude, okay. You're getting a little close to the dark side. I mean, let's look at the timeline. Oh wait, we're almost at Revenge of the Sith. Okay, that checks out. Which was always one of my favorite parts of Clone Wars, was seeing Anakin on his journey to becoming Darth Vader. And you see these moments, and it gets more and more and more from Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith, and it's really nice. The only other scene I want to mention is there's a part where Mace Windu and Obi-Wan are fighting a bunch of droids, or they get into a building and there's like 100,000 droids there. That's probably an exaggeration. And Mace Windu's like, all right, at this point in the war, I have killed probably 100,000 of you droids. Either I could fucking kill you, or you could put down your weapons and I'll reprogram you. Which is just like, all right, pal. All right, way to show off, first of all. But then the droids just start attacking him, and it's just funny. I love that kind of stuff. One of the underrated parts of Star Wars is the humor. Generally, they are very good with making jokes and stuff and having them actually be funny. Sometimes it doesn't work. For every scene like that, there's one of a droid getting mad at a guy on Tatooine or some bullshit. I hate the special editions. I'm a real Star Wars fan because I don't like George Lucas. Anyway, that joke probably doesn't work, but I'm gonna leave it in. Moving on to the Bad Batch, good stuff. Liked it a lot. I'm gonna rank the season as a whole. I'm not gonna rank the individual arcs. I'm not gonna talk about the individual episodes because I watched this whole thing over the course of 3 days. So, a lot of the episodes blend together. I really liked it, though. Thought it was a lot of fun. A lot of good character moments, especially for Anakin and Rex. And the Bad Batch as a whole is just fun. Fun action hero type stuff. Moving on to the next arc, Ahsoka's Walkabout. Man! When I said mixed, this is what I was referring to, man. There's a couple really nice... I have very few notes written down here. First of all, this whole arc could have been condensed. It was 4 episodes. 4 out of the final 12 episodes of this series, you could have condensed them into 2 episodes, and it probably would have been better. I imagine that there's a lot of people who just don't like Trace and whatever the other one's name is, the Martez sisters, because we just spent too much time with them and they didn't do a lot. We have to see them break out of the Pikes prison just to get locked up again, just so they can break out again. Of course! This makes so much sense! No, don't do that, please. That's a terrible idea. It is what it is, though. For what it is, the problem with this is that it's very much... where something like The Bad Batch is good, it's average for Clone Wars, because Clone Wars is really good, generally. So when you have an arc like The Bad Batch that on its own is really good, it just is average to the rest of the series, which a Clone Wars average is good. Ahsoka's Walkabout is okay. It is a normal average. Where average for Clone Wars is good, average for something else is average. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? So where something like The Bad Batch is good it's okay in comparison to the rest of the series, but good on its own, Ahsoka's Walkabout is okay compared to the rest of the series, and not very good on its own. Or it's okay on its own, not very good for the rest of the series. I hope that makes sense. It's just, there's not a lot to it, you know? I mean, it is nice to see Ahsoka interact with people who don't know, like, who are just normal people living on Coruscant. They call out level 1313, which if you're a real Star Wars fan, you'll know that's a reference to the canceled game. Whoo! I mean, when I was watching that, I let out an audible. Yeah, 1313. What a reference. But seriously though, also there's a moment where, I think it's after Ahsoka beats up a couple of the thugs who are trying to collect money from Trace, and she asks Ahsoka where she learned to fight like that, and Ahsoka's like, "Oh, my older brother taught me." I'm like, my heart. Because that's what I love about Ahsoka and Anakin, is that they have this beautiful sibling relationship, you know? They are very much part of a family, you know? And let me imagine my alternate universe where Anakin and Padme get to be a father, like, get to parent their children and grow up, and they get to have their uncle Obi-Wan and their aunt Asoka, you know? Yeah, that's all I want, you know? I got a really good idea for a comic series, actually. Anyway, unrelated to that. It's just nice seeing them treated as a family, because that's what they are, you know? And that's what these characters are. They are a family, and that's a lot of what Star Wars is about, you know? Like in A New Hope, Luke loses his family with Owen and Beru, but he finds it with Han and Leia and Chewie and the droids, you know, and the rest of the rebellion. He finds a new family, and I think that's really nice. Other than that, though, there is one like scene that I'm like, oh, fuck you. There's a scene, the part where Ahsoka's trying to get off of the Pikes, out of the Pikes like base on her own, and there's the hologram of Darth Maul. You probably know what I'm talking about, and he sees her. That's not how holograms work. He shouldn't. I don't think this is a nitpick, actually. I mean, it is in the sense that it really has no bearing on the story, or it doesn't matter at all. But inconsistency like this is just annoying. Like, not even as like a super fan. In any of the movies or Clone Wars, whenever we see holograms, all that shows up, like, I could be holding one in my hand, and it'd just be a little thing of a person. And then, on their end, they just see me. And it's just me. Was there a hologram of the entire room that the Pikes were in? Like the leader, whose name I don't remember, and Maul was looking at all of them so he could see Ahsoka running by? That's the only explanation I can think of. Probably not. It's probably some Force bullshit. That's how it can get explained away easily. They're not important, I just wanted to mention it. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about that arc, and it directly leads into, I'm going to come out and say it, this is one of the best arcs in the entire series. I truly believe that the Siege of Mandalore arc is some of the best Star Wars. When I think of the greatest parts of Star Wars, just the entire franchise, my personal favorites are moments in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I'm going to get Empire Strikes Back, yeah, you know, it is full of them. And then, for me personally, Revenge of the Sith. Those are, like, the good movies. Force Awakens gets to hang out there, too. And so does Solo. And also the hallway scene from Rogue One. But very rarely, aside from maybe a couple scenes in The Mandalorian and some stuff from the games, not a lot gets to stand up with those, with the big boys, you know? even within Clone Wars, there's a lot of good stuff that does get to sit up there. But the Siege of Mandalore goes above so much of the rest of It is probably the best arc in Clone Wars. I know people are going to be like, oh, the Umbara arc. I love the Umbara arc, don't get me wrong, but it's not one of my personal favorites. Like, if I had to rank the entire arc, it would be up there. But for me, personally, it isn't one of my favorites. I recognize how good it is and how amazing it is, especially for, again, the characters of Rex and Jesse and all the other clones. But in a vacuum, no, that's not how I want to phrase that. I think that the Siege of Mandalore is very much in a league of its own, honestly. It is in the same league as the best movies, in my personal favorite movies. And it's just so good. The beginning where Asoka joins up with Rex and they go down to the planet, to the surface of Mandalore, which I left a note of that. There's a part where Asoka, there's a part where she says to Rex, race you to the surface, and then it's her making her way down. And that's a callback to a couple different things. It's a callback to, mainly though, her race with Anakin to the top of the castle on Teth in the Clone Wars movie. I grew up with Clone Wars, you know? I was one of those kids where, when I was old enough to start getting into Star Wars, was right after Revenge of the Sith came out. So my Star Wars was Clone Wars. And I'm getting almost choked up talking about it. I didn't during the episode, but now that I'm talking about it, it's starting to hit me how good that moment is, because it's it just shows Ahsoka's progression. It's just so beautiful. You know, it makes me happy to think about that scene. And then within that, it's so sad because we know where it's going. So I'm going to keep it moving. Don't worry. I do want to mention the scene at the beginning with Anakin and Obi-Wan. That's a fun scene. They also, on the battle on the bridge. What I liked about that is when Anakin goes out to fake surrender, and then you see, the clones and R2 on the bottom of the bridge or whatever they were doing. They played the same music that plays in Return of the Jedi when Luke is about to be pushed into the Sarlacc pit, and then he he does the thing where he salutes to R2 and then he's jumping around. It's the bum, bum, I love that track so much. Maybe probably because I'm nostalgic for Lego Star Wars of all things. I don't like that I'm at a point where I have probably more nostalgia for the music of the original trilogy and the prequels as well. Not because of the actual movies, but instead because of Lego Star Wars. That always I'll be rewatching the movies and I'll hear one of the songs and I won't be nostalgic for the first time that I saw the movie. I'll be nostalgic for being 8 years old and playing Lego Star Wars. And I'm well, that's interesting. But I just like that moment. I love the parallels between the two scenes. I like the orange helmets on the clones. Those are ironic. You know why. Again, the whole race to the surface scene is so good. The whole battle on Mandalore. It's so cool seeing the clones fighting alongside Mandalorians against other Mandalorians. It's so awesome, man. And I love the designs of the Mandalore. I mean, the normal blue armored, like, Death Watch Mandalorians, we've seen them. They're nothing special at this point. But, like, Gar Saxon and I forget the other leader, the Mandalorian leader girl that works for Maul. I forget her name. But their armor, like, Gar Saxon has, like, the yellow visor, and it's all painted red and black like Maul, and he has, like, horns on his helmet. It's so cool. I love all of their designs. It's such a badass scene. But then, next significant thing to talk about is probably, again, I like how this whole arc syncs up with Revenge of the Sith. I want to see, like, someone, like, do a supercut of both the Siege of Mandalore and Revenge of the Sith. With, because there's the scene where Obi-Wan is talking on a hologram, and it's like, hey, this is where we are in the movie. Anakin just killed Dooku. I'm being sent to go fight Grievous, and also, I just told Anakin that he has to spy on the Chancellor, and he's pissed. It's like, all right, thank you for telling me exactly where in Revenge of the Sith we are, so I know exactly how much time we have before Order 66. And it's good. Again, Ahsoka's whole duel with Maul is awesome. Again, I'm just moving down the timeline. It's so cool. And Maul's whole, like, premonition of Order 66, so his entire motivation this arc is like, I know something's coming, guys. It's about to go down. Be ready for it. I don't know when, and I don't know what, and I don't know how, but oh boy. It's just really cool, you know? And then, like, after the duel with them, I love the part where they're up on, like, the scaffolding underneath the, like, glass ceiling thing for the city on Mandalore. There's probably names, but I just love that part so much. It's such a cool setting where they're on scaffolding over an entire city. That's so... I just love imagery like that. And then just to have a fight there. I wish more of the fight took place up there, because it is so cool. But then when Maul finally gets captured and he's, like, tied up by the clones hanging from the gunships, and he's just screaming about, oh, we're all gonna die, we're fucked, Sidious is gonna, you know, I don't know what I don't remember exactly what he's saying, but I'm watching that and I'm like, okay, Jesus, that's almost scared me, like, oh my god, Order 66 is a scary moment anyway, you know, it's sad more than anything, like, I'm thinking about, like, playing Jedi Fallen Order, when you have the Order 66 flashback, that part is sad more than anything. But, oh my god, the way Maul is talking about it, it's scary, it's horrifying. This idea that there is going to be this massive shift in power in the entire galaxy it's very scary, and especially when you, as an audience member, because we've all seen Revenge of the Sith, we know the whole story. Maul doesn't. Ahsoka doesn't. Nobody fucking else knows what's happening except for Sidious. And it's so good. And then you get this whole sense of dread. The last 2 episodes are just like, okay, we know what's coming. When's it gonna happen? And then, like, you hear, like, music from, and like, sound effects from Revenge of the Sith. And it's like, okay, oh boy. Before I get to talking about the last 2 episodes, I do want to mention 2 more things that are cool. Well, I'm kind of on the last episode. Again, all these episodes were kind of bled together as a whole, just because I watched them all at once. Something I do want to mention, though, before I forget, I love the beginning of this arc, where it's, or just this entire arc. The title screen is red, which, I mean, you know, I think it was for the logo on the title, like, you know what I mean. It's red, and I think it was for the Maul episodes in the like rest of the series, but they are this entire arc. And I don't think they just stand for Maul because he's red. I think they also mean blood because death, because Order 66. Now, I might just be spitballing here. It might not mean that much, but this is Star Wars. The symbolism isn't that hard to understand. If I can understand it, anyone can. So what's the point of me mentioning it? I just like it a lot. Also, they use the old Lucasfilm logo, and which really sells that this is on par with the movies, which it is. It 100% is. I know I was being kind of like, oh, well, in my personal opinion earlier. No, it fucking is. It's so good. If you, for whatever reason, have someone in your... Now, I had my one uncle is a massive Star Wars fan. Like, he... Well, and unlike someone like me where I consume a lot of media, so a small percent, even though a large percent of it is Star Wars, I consume media from other things. Like 50% of all the media he consumes is Star Wars. He's a massive Star Wars fan. For years, I was telling him, you gotta watch Clone Wars. It's so good. It's on par with the movies. It's amazing. And he's like, oh, I don't want it. It's a cartoon. I feel weird watching a cartoon because I'm a 40-year-old man. Fuck off, man. That's not it. That was it. I didn't mean that one. Like, shut up, man. Watch Clone Wars. It's so good. Get over yourself. It's Star Wars. It's made for kids anyway. I disagree with that last statement, actually. It's Star Wars is for families. It's for all ages. Except for Resistance. That's for small children. I don't like Resistance. Probably because I'm not the target demographic, but I concede. Star Wars is so good. If you have someone in your life who has not watched Clone Wars and calls themselves a Star Wars fan, tell them to suck it up and watch Clone Wars. Because once they do, they will love it. If you have something in your head that's like, oh, I can't watch a cartoon because it's made for children. What about animation automatically makes it for kids? Do we forget that one of the most popular cartoon series of all time is The Simpsons, a show that is very much not for kids? It's appropriate for families, I would say, but not for kids specifically. Like, top 3 most popular, cartoon series of all time are fucking SpongeBob, The Simpsons, and Family Guy. 2 out of those 3 are very much for adults. Well, at least Family Guy is. The animation is amazing, and that's an argument that I'll probably bring up later on. Probably when I watch the Star Wars, when I watch Into the Spider-Verse. It will eventually happen, guys, I'm sorry. Anyway, though, I was talking about Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This video's gone on for over 30 minutes. I love this arc. And again, this sense of dread. These last 2 episodes. I really wish that they had used more music from Revenge of the Sith. There's the one track, I think it's called Padme's Ruminations, which is one of my favorites in all of Star Wars. It's the one that plays, I think you see Padme in her apartment, and then you see Anakin in the Jedi Council meeting room and the Jedi Temple, and they're both looking out the window, and you can they're supposed to be looking towards each other, and it's when Mace Windu and brings a team to go arrest Sidious, and we know how that goes. And it's during that scene, and I love that track so much. It's so haunting, and I think the only way that would have made that scene of Rex and Asoka sitting on the bridge of the ship, basically waiting for Order 66 to happen, and they're having a conversation. Having that track in there is the only thing that would have made it better, honestly. And yeah, it wouldn't... Technically, that scene with Anakin and Padme was right before this one, because then immediately after they have that conversation, they're walking back, and then Order 66 happens, and it's just so good. It's so sad, and I love every minute of it. I love this show. I love Star Wars, man. That's all it comes down to, is this is Star Wars in its purest, best form. You know, as much as I, like... Again, I'm going to go back to what I said towards the beginning. As much as it's easy to shit on Disney Star Wars, if you ignore the movies, it is a wonderful time to be a Star Wars fan, because you got some people, mainly Dave Filoni, but you got some people working at Lucasfilm who really know what they're doing, and they know what Star Wars is all about. And the Siege of Mandalore arc is proof of that. I'll stop gushing. Let me get to the end. We're almost at the end. So Order 66 happens, and Ahsoka's running around, and there's a part where she, when she lets Maul out, and she's like, hey, go cause some fucking chaos. And he's like, okay. That's not exactly how it goes, but that's basically the effect. And I like that scene, and then I like watching, like, you'll have Ahsoka doing everything she can to get Rex, and then figure out what's going on, and there's scenes of that, and then in her, like, put in all between that is Maul just, like, walking around the ship, just slaughtering clone troopers, which I think it's funny that Ahsoka and then Rex are like, no, we don't want to kill anyone, we care about these people, when Ahsoka... What did you think Maul was going to do when you let him out? I know he's supposed to be a distraction, and it's like, oh, well, I'm not actually killing them, Maul is. What did you think he was going to do when you let him out? What'd you think? Because I think he's going to kill everyone in as brutal way as possible because he doesn't have his lightsabers on him. So I think he's going to walk down the hallway all menacing-like, ripping panels off the wall and floating them in front of himself and to block blaster fire, and then fucking yeeting them at clone troopers, most certainly killing them. And if the Force doesn't kill them, of a metal panel hitting them, maybe he'll spin them around and throw one and decapitate a couple troopers. Maybe he'll just, like, throw one so that the corner of it impales another against the wall. I don't know. Maybe. But, yeah, I don't know what your plan there was. Don't get me wrong, that scene is awesome. That's, like, I was having flashbacks to the hallway scene in Rogue One, where the hallway scene with Vader is scary. Like, there's fear. Which, I mean, why would... No, you are scared, because you're on the side of the clones, or, the rebel troopers, who are trying to get the plans through the door. And it's like, nope, the fucking... Like, then there's a fucking slasher villain at the end of the hallway just murdering you one at a time. And it's like, oh boy, how are we gonna get out of this one, Captain? You know? On this one, though, it doesn't have, there's no fear. You don't have the sense of dread anymore because Order 66 already happened. This is the aftermath. But... with this, it's, like, there's more of you sense the power. It's less about the fear of Vader and the power of Vader. Here, it's just the power of Maul. So although I would put this, like, right below Vader's scene, it's very good. The Vader scene, again, just is, like, horrifying. Like, it's so good, man. Again, all the grief I give Rogue One, that hallway scene is so good. Anyway, though, where are we? Yeah, let's just skip to, they get off the ship and they're fighting a bunch of clone troopers and blah, 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 They finally get off. They finally get to the end. There's not a lot that I feel like I have to say. Oh, before I forget, there were, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but have you met me? Something I do like is there's a couple scenes just throughout this arc that have cameos for other characters. Of course, Gar Saxon, who's a character in Rebels. You see Sabine's mom from Rebels, and then Ursa Wren, I think is her name. Whatever the name of the other Mandalorian girl whose name I don't remember. Bo-Katan is also there. She was in Clone Wars originally. She shows up again in Rebels, of course, but, you know. I think that there's two more. It's a scene which got me excited because I love Solo, so you know where this is going. You see a young Dryden Voss during a part where Maul is like at the end of a conversation with one of the guys from Black Sun, the leader of the Pikes, and then also Dryden Voss of Crimson Dawn. And it's like, you know, I love Dryden Voss just because I love Paul Bettany. So I was like, oh, it's him! Oh! And I like forgot his name at first, and I was like, shit, what's his name? I'm so excited to see him, but what's his name? But you know, that was cool. That's cool. I just like the continuity because I do like Solo. Again, I shit on Disney Star Wars. By Disney Star Wars, I mean I shit on The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. If you want to know what I thought about The Rise of Skywalker, watch my review on this channel. It's the last video I uploaded. Anyway, there's also a cameo of Caleb Doom, who is, we all know is, again, I say we all know, like people actually watched Rebels. I did. Rebels, more like not as good version of Clone Wars, am I right, gamers? Oh, roasted! Oh. We're probably gonna get a sequel to Rebels, a sequel series to Rebels in the coming months. It's probably gonna get announced, mark my words. I wanna know what happens to Asoka and Sabine! Which actually, knowing, you know, spoilers for Rebels, I do want to say something that works to this arc's detriment is the fact that we know Ahsoka and Rex survive because they show up in Rebels. If they had gotten to finish this series properly back when it was actually airing, there would have been much more tension. But it got to a point during that last episode where I'm like, all right, come on, guys, just escape. I don't care how you do it because I know Ahsoka, Rex, and Maul all survive to show up in Rebels. I don't need to watch. It got to a point where it's like, okay, and oh no, there's another obstacle, and oh no, there's more clone troopers, and oh no, there's no ship working. Oh no, Maul stole our ship. Okay, I get it. Just get on with it, you know. And I think that, not to say that I didn't like the last episode, it's just, when you get 3 10s and end it with a 9, the 9 looks a lot worse than it really is, you know? I still give that whole arc a 10, though, don't get me wrong. Which is probably hinting towards what the actual score that I'm going to give the whole season. But anyway, I know how I said that this video had gone over a half an hour 10 minutes ago? Let's get to the end, guys. Because I got another video to record after this one. I love this arc. I love the scene at the end with the false graves for the false grave for Ahsoka and then all of the clone troopers, and it's just sad. And something interesting is that Ahsoka is wearing a gray robe, and it looks very much like the white one she has at the end of Rebels, which is funny because, if we remember back when that episode aired and we all saw that for the first time, we're like, look, it's Ahsoka the White, like Gandalf the White, it's funny. And people were making jokes like that. So we had Ahsoka the White, now we have Ahsoka the Gray. And I just think that's funny, honestly. And yeah, so then of course there's the flash forward with all the stormtroopers on whatever the planet they were on, and Vader's looking at this grave. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I do like that Ahsoka has blue lightsabers. It's like a part of Anakin is with her now. So then when Vader picks up the lightsaber and ignites it and sees that it's blue, it's like, shit, dude. And, you know, I know there's like mixed opinions on during that scene with Vader whether he is remorseful or doesn't care. And I don't know. And I like the ambiguity of it. I'm scared that in a comic or a book or something, they're going to mention this scene and somehow, like, give us an answer to it. I don't want an answer. I like how ambiguous what's going on inside of Vader's head is. And there's a part where you can, like, see inside of the mask and you can see one of his eyes. And they use symbolism like that a lot in general, especially in Rebels, they did this. Where seeing the eyes is like it's like Vader's a shell around Anakin, and you're by seeing Anakin's eyes, you're breaking that shell a little bit, and a little bit of Anakin can be seen inside, and it's just sad. I love it, and it's sad, and it's good. Again, that last episode wasn't as good as the first 3. Like I said, though, when you have a 9 amongst 10s, it looks worse than it is. But in reality, Victory and Death, I believe the last episode was called, it is very good. I think that's all I wanted to mention about this. So let's get to a score. I think I'm going to give the Siege of Mandalore, I'm gonna give it to season 7 as a whole. I'm gonna give season 7 not 8.5 blue lightsabers with the blue standing for depression out of 10. 8 out of 10. Honestly, I think it deserves that as a whole. Siege of Mandalore gets a 10 out of 10. Bad Batch, I don't know how to score it. And I honestly would give Ahsoka's Walkabout like a 5 out of 10. It's just, there's so much nothing to it. I mean, it is kind of cool to see Kessel. I didn't mention that earlier, but just because I like the location of Kessel, I don't know why, it's visually appealing to me. Though the rest of it is meh. The sisters don't really do it for me. It's aside from just being generic, like people who Ahsoka has to meet and work with who don't like the Jedi, and it gives Ahsoka that other perspective. Outside of that, though, it just isn't that special, which is sad. I know probably this is it, but I wouldn't mind seeing because there are these other stories that would turn into the Son of Dathomir comic with Maul, and the Dark Disciples book. And I know that those were originally supposed to be stories that would be taken, or the Crystal Crisis arc, which was unfinished. Hopefully they will, maybe, fingers crossed, retell those in the form that they were supposed to be told. Because from what I've heard, those are all really good stories. And I wouldn't mind hearing about them, because I think, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I just think it's how much hype was around season 7. I think that has to tell Lucasfilm something about this time period and this era of Star Wars, really. So hopefully we get more. I'm not holding my breath, though. If I find out in a month that, we're getting season 8 of Clone Wars, awesome. That'll be great. I'll bust a fat fucking nut. Don't get me wrong. I'm not holding my breath, though. Maybe one day we'll get the Crystal Crisis story retold somehow. That's kind of why I'm leaning towards a no on that front, because, I don't really know where they're gonna go, honestly. Just because the other two arcs were already told in a different way. And yeah, even the Siege of Mandalore was kind of mentioned already. Yes, some stuff in the Siege of Mandalore, a little bit in the Asoka book. And yes, the Siege of Mandalore arc kind of contradicts the Asoka book, but it doesn't really matter. It's minor stuff. I could see them reprinting the book and changing that stuff, honestly. But I'm happy. I want to see what they do next with Star Wars. I'm excited for season 2 of The Mandalorian, of course. I love The Mandalorian. And then whatever becomes of the High Republic, the Cassian Andor series, the Kenobi series, and anything else they want to do. Again, here's hoping that we get a Rebels 2. Find out what happens with Ahsoka and Sabine. And how, if they go, are they going to go find Ezra and Thrawn? What's going to happen, I really want to know, and hopefully they don't. Hopefully Ahsoka doesn't hijack season 2 of The Mandalorian, and that's all I have to say about that. This video's gone on for 50 minutes. Goodbye. I love you.